Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to unpack a term that, well, it's become deeply ingrained in modern culture, the glow-up. And for most of us, that phrase probably conjures images of, new wardrobes, intense fitness routines, or maybe some expensive external changes, a kind of surface-level rebrand.
Exactly. And our source material for this deep dive suggests that focusing only on the external it's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling foundation.
Right. It looks good for a little while, but the structure is still weak.
It is. So our deep dive today is custom tailored for you, the learner who's looking for that fundamental, thorough transformation, the kind that isn't a cliche and, more importantly, isn't temporary.
We're talking about a mental glow-up. The insight here is pretty crucial. The real foundation of your life's energy, how you navigate stress, how you seize opportunities, it all lies in your thoughts.
And your self-talk. And, crucially, what the source calls the shadows you ignore.
Okay, so the argument here is that if you want a complete level up, you have to commit to this internal restructuring first.
That's the mission. To extract the actionable blueprint for this whole process, moving past the generic advice and getting right into the specific mental mechanics.
Okay, let's unpack this blueprint for upgrading the operating system of your mind. We start with the absolute foundation, retraining your thought patterns.
And what's immediately striking is how the author just dismisses mere positive affirmations.
Yeah, I found that refreshing.
Right. The material acknowledges that just telling yourself, I am successful over and over again, it doesn't counteract decades of, negative programming or those deep limiting beliefs.
I really appreciate that realism. It uses a powerful analogy to explain why that fails. It says your brain is like a garden. We might try to plant flowers, those are the positive affirmations. But if the soil is just choked with weeds, those flowers are never going to take root. You have to be a conscious gardener.
You have to identify and remove the weeds first. And this isn't just fluffy motivation. This links directly to metacognition, the awareness of your own thought processes.
So what are the weeds? What are we looking for?
The source identifies 3 core toxic weeds: spontaneous negativity, pervasive self-doubt, and that paralyzing fear. These are the thoughts that are silently dictating your limitations.
That makes perfect sense. We're not aiming for eternal optimism. We're aiming for accurate awareness. But if we can't just slap a positive sticker on the issue, what are the practical steps? How do we become this conscious thinker?
Okay, so the source material lays out a very specific 3-part filtering process.
A process, good.
The first part is becoming a detached observer. You need to just notice. Notice when your mind automatically drifts to that familiar phrase, I can't, or this is too hard.
You have to stop at mid-sentence.
You have to catch it. And
Yeah.
a second step addresses probably the sneakiest weed of all self-judgment.
That instant critique of everything you do. You shouldn't have said that, or you're not smart enough for this.
Yes. And the third step, this is the ultimate utility filter. You ask yourself one single direct question. Is this thought helping me or holding me back?
That question forces you to categorize the thought not by its emotional weight, but by its practical outcome.
Exactly.
Wait, okay, but isn't that question still a little too simple? What if the thought is a genuine fear, like, I might fail at this? I mean, that's technically holding me back, but isn't it also just reality?
That's a great question. And that's where the deep dive comes in. The thought, I might fail, holds you back from action.
Right. It leads to paralysis.
But the helpful thought is, okay, failure is possible, but what's one small step I can take right now to proceed anyway? The filter isn't about ignoring reality. It's about changing the output from paralysis to progressive action.
That distinction is so key. So the goal of this first section is really just realizing you have the ability to filter your thoughts. You either control the narrative in your head,
Or it controls you by default. If you're not actively choosing your thoughts, the weeds of doubt and fear are choosing for you. They're dictating your limits before you even get a chance to test them.
Okay, so moving from that passive pattern recognition to active intervention. That brings us to step 2. Mastering your self-talk. It feels like a transition from just observing the garden's health to actively deciding what you're feeding the soil.
It is. This is about intentional language reform. It's critical because the source states that what you say to yourself matters more than anyone else's opinion. It becomes your internal gravity.
Wow, internal gravity. I like that. So what do we do?
First, we have to identify and eliminate the 2 most destructive phrases from our inner dialogue.
And what are these primary saboteurs?
The first is a statement of identity. You have to stop saying, I'm not enough. The second is a statement of outcome. Stop saying, I'll never get there.
Okay, so those phrases create a fixed mindset. They basically build walls around you.
Exactly. They block capability and they completely dismiss effort.
But how is the replacement any different from those flimsy positive affirmations we just dismissed? If I just start saying I am enough, but I don't believe it, isn't that just going to ring hollow?
It's different because the replacement dialogue is focused on process and on becoming. It's not a sudden, unsupported statement of perfection. We're planting growth language.
Give us the specifics. What is this growth language we should be using?
So instead of I'm not enough, we affirm I am capable. Instead of projecting failure, we state I deserve growth.
Okay.
And then there's this really powerful forward-looking statement, I am becoming who I need to be.
That last one is excellent. I am becoming. It acknowledges where you are now, but it directs all the energy toward the future. It allows for imperfection.
Precisely. This shift changes the internal narrative from a fixed identity, I am not enough, to a dynamic, evolving process, I am becoming.
It creates a psychological openness to learning.
It does. And if you can master this supportive, growth-oriented dialogue, the external world will inevitably start to respond to the increased internal certainty you project.
This brings us to where the rubber meets the road, and where, frankly, it gets really uncomfortable. This is the crucial third section, the part of mental transformation most people just avoid. The shadow work. This is the reason people try the first two steps and then relapse.
The source is so emphatic about this, ignoring your shadows keeps you stuck, period. And we need to be very specific about what these shadows are because it's a term that gets thrown around a lot.
Right, it can be pretty vague.
The shadows aren't just your bad habits, they are the unacknowledged, disowned parts of your personality that secretly drive your behavior.
Can you give us a more concrete example, like a pattern of self-sabotage that's driven by a shadow?
Sure, let's take procrastination. The shadow there is often a deep-seated fear of rejection. Or even a fear of success.
A fear of success.
Absolutely. If you fear success because it brings new responsibilities or new expectations, your shadow will manifest as procrastination. That's the self-sabotage, which ensures you never have to face that outcome you dread.
So the shadow isn't the procrastination itself, it's the underlying hidden fear that's driving it.
You've got it. So the three areas we have to confront are our fears, our insecurities, and those destructive patterns of self-sabotage that come from them.
Okay. And the process is counterintuitive.
Yeah.
My natural instinct would be to try and just erase the parts of myself I hate, cut out the shadow completely.
But that's not integration, that's suppression, and it doesn't work.
So what specifically is integration?
Integration is radical acceptance followed by constructive refinement. It means facing that hidden fear. Let's stick with the fear of success and understanding that the part of you that wants to protect you through sabotage is actually trying to keep you safe.
It has a positive intention, even if the result is negative.
Exactly. You don't eliminate that protective urge. You re-educate it. You can literally say, thank you for trying to protect me, but this method of sabotage is no longer effective. We need a new strategy.
You're bringing the hidden driver into the light and giving it a new job.
That's a perfect way to put it. The source argues that this critical step facing and integrating the shadow is where true mental transformation happens. Without it, the positive thoughts and self-talk from steps 1 and 2 will just crumble the moment real stress hits.
That really is the foundation. Which brings us to the final, indispensable key: consistency. The source makes it so clear that a mental glow-up isn't a one-time thing. It's not a weekend retreat.
No, it requires daily, low-friction effort across all three of those areas: thoughts, self-talk, and reflection.
And this step emphasizes that practice compounds. We don't need these marathon sessions of self-help. We need small, repetitive efforts.
Right, and the source highlights 3 highly actionable daily practices that can take just 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That makes them achievable for anyone listening.
10 minutes is remarkably manageable. Can you break those 3 practices down for us and connect them back to the steps?
Of course. First is journaling. This reinforces the shadow work. And we're not talking about a Dear Diary entry. It's targeted reflection where you explore what triggered your negative thoughts today and why.
So that helps bring those hidden shadow patterns into conscious awareness.
Precisely. The second practice is meditation, specifically mindfulness meditation. This directly addresses step 1. Upgrading your thought patterns.
How so?
Meditation teaches you to observe your thoughts without judgment. That's the prerequisite for conscious filtering. It creates the mental space you need to stop that I can't thought before it spirals out of control.
Okay, so journaling for shadow work, meditation for thought patterns. What's the third practice?
Conscious thought practice. This directly reinforces step 2, mastering self-talk. This is the active 10-minute habit of catching limiting language and replacing it with the growth dialogue we talked about.
It's the intentional maintenance of the internal garden we've just cleared out.
Yes. It's these small, continuous acts of maintenance that prevent the garden from becoming choked with weeds again. It's about building momentum, not striving for some kind of perfection.
Right. And consistency turns that intention into a habit.
Absolutely. And eventually, through this daily commitment, your refined and optimized mindset, it stops being something you have to practice, and it just becomes your default way of navigating life. That optimized mindset becomes your superpower.
That's a really powerful framework for achieving profound change, and actually pretty quickly.
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, the real glow-up is quiet. It's internal, and it's deep. It's achieved by systematically upgrading your thoughts, mastering your self-talk, and gaining resilience by facing your shadow.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, who's looking for that quick but deep knowledge? It means redirecting your energy inward. Stop chasing the external fix. If you implement this blueprint and you start with just 10 minutes of conscious practice a day, the thoroughness of that internal change will exceed any surface level effort, and it will stick.
And this raises a really important question for reflection as you go explore this framework.
Yeah.
If the mental glow-up requires facing internal resistance and these consistent 10-minute efforts, ask yourself this. What major external obstacle are you currently facing? Like that promotion you won't apply for, or that relationship you can't seem to commit to.
Exactly. What is that obstacle that is actually just a perfect high-stakes reflection of the internal shadow work you have yet to begin? Go explore that shadow, and the external world will begin to shift around you.